On February 22nd through 27th, we were able to take a trip to Rome, Venice, Pisa, and Florence, Italy. This trip was offered by Gate 1 Travel, and it was an independent tour. Now, with Gate 1 Travel, our first day we arrived at Rome after 1 p.m. because our flight was late, and it took us to the Hotel Donatello. Now, the hotel was okay, but the city was just covered in graffiti. They considered it artwork, and every building was loaded. The hotel was cute. It had a cute lobby, and it had a historical nature to it. And the rooms were very small, but very quaint. And we were lucky enough that our room did have a little balcony attached to it. So the room was pleasant, and when you're on vacation, you're really not in your room the whole time. So I don't really have any problems with our room, and we were given maid service daily, which was nice. Something that was kind of different is we were given a metal key to our room, and every time you left your room, you had to turn in the key to the front desk, and then you had to pick it back up when you got in. So that was kind of different, but we got used to it. You were not allowed to take your key with you. Our trip package did come with transfer from the airport, and then when the trip was over, transfer back to the airport included in the price. But since our flight was delayed, we missed our transfer, and we did have to pay $70 on our own to get to the hotel. And we'll have to see if we're reimbursed for that or not. Now, our hotel clerk told us that the Colosseum was just about a 15-minute walk down the road. So as you can see, we took the walk through some of the little neighborhoods. It seemed pretty safe. I didn't feel threatened at all, or like I was going to get mugged or anything. And when you got to the Colosseum, it was just breathtaking. It was amazing. It was definitely worth the walk to go down there too and see. And luckily, the day we got there, it wasn't that busy. We were able to take a lot of pictures and just explore around and have a good time. Now, the first day we decided to take it easy and just explore a little bit because we were so tired, with the time difference and not getting much sleep on an airplane. You are exhausted when you get there, but when you're in a new city, you have to go explore. Again, the Colosseum was everything I thought it would be plus more. So on the way back to our hotel, we stopped at a restaurant and just got, of course, pizza. And the prices really weren't that bad. The pizzas were about $10 each, and it's enough to really fill you up. So next up, we have day 2, another day in Rome. Now, our hotel did say it offered a breakfast every morning, so we thought we could fill up and save a little money, but it was actually just croissants and juice and coffee. It was not a breakfast, it was just bread and juice, basically. So we took this tour that was about $100 a person to take, and it was a little bit hard to find. We actually beat the tour guide to the meeting location, so it was a little confusing. And our first stop was here at the Vatican Museum. So this is the lobby right when you walked into the museum. And then when we started taking the tour, they took us to the outside first to show you the dome and a small garden next to the Vatican Museum. And this gentleman talking right here was our tour guide, Luigi. Now, he gave us these maps of the 16th chapel so we could kind of have a reference of what all the different artwork meant. And then this is the little garden that we were able to see during the tour. And then here is, I can't remember exactly what this was, but it was to the walkway to the Vatican Museum, where it had the giant bronze globe. It had beautiful architecture and statues. We took tons of pictures, tons of video. It was just really impressive to see. And then our tour guide, Luigi, gave the globe a big spin.
So basically here you see, this is 1990 bronze, a gift by the author, Pomodoro.
Now, Luigi was full of information, and he tried to explain to us the history of Rome and all kinds of different, very interesting information. This was the entrance way to the Vatican Museum, and right when you walked in, you just saw a long hallway room full of different kind of busts and statues with a giant staircase that leads you to the beginning of the exhibits. Now, the pictures don't do the place justice. It was beautiful. Every room you went into was more spectacular than the one you just came out of. Here's a little window we saw with a little view of Italy out of it. I just wanted to film that. I thought it was cute. Now, it walked us through all kinds of different passageways to get to various rooms. Every single thing you saw there was just beautiful, breathtaking. It's very ornate, very busy. You can never remember everything you see on vacation, so definitely make sure you take tons of pictures and tons of video, and it's the best way to document your travels. Even the floor throughout the Vatican Museum was gorgeous. It was different kinds of marbles and tiles, just so pretty. Like I said, every single thing there was beautiful, opulent, just so extreme and ornate. I have seen pictures before of the Vatican and even watched a couple videos of other people's, but until you experience something like this for yourself, you really can't appreciate how extravagant and beautiful it actually is. Here's a little more video of the floor. I was just enthralled by looking at this floor. This is all mosaic tile, and it's beautiful from the floor all the way up to the painted ceilings. It's just so much awesomeness in one place. Here was a different ceiling in a different room that was very three-dimensional. And then it's just tons of hallways with beautiful lighting and sunlight coming through. And then when you leave the indoor Vatican Museum, you get to go to the square outside and see where the Pope makes some of his speeches to the crowds. All right, let's go in here and look around. Now, this tour was actually a 7-hour tour. It's Rome in a day, where we walked throughout the city streets. We saw different fountains. We stopped at a little cafe to get coffee, used the restroom. A 7-hour walking tour throughout the city was exhausting, but you really don't get that tired because it's so many beautiful things to see. It's just fountain after fountain and historical building after historical building. You absolutely don't get bored. Just make sure you take your phone and it's charged up so you can use that camera and take a million pictures of all the different beautiful things you see. It's almost like you're just walking down the streets and then bam, you run into a historical landmark you weren't expecting to be there. Like here's the Pantheon just while we were walking down the street. It's just such a beautiful city and so many surprises. And like I said before, sometimes you see pictures of these places, you see them on YouTube, but until you actually get to walk through it yourself and experience it, you can't appreciate how awesome it actually is. Now, it might sound silly, but one of my favorite things to do was actually just walking down the different streets. The buildings are really close together and the walkways are kind of tight. You run across all kinds of cool things to see. Like here was a chocolate wall in one of the chocolate stores. And then the next thing I knew, we were at the Trevi Fountain. Again, just walking down the street and then bam, there it is. When I saw videos in the past, I don't know why, I just assumed these places were just kind of off by themselves and like the big focal point, but they're not. They're just intertwined in the city and you just stumble across them. A random thing here, they like to put locks everywhere. It's kind of cool. Now for lunch, we got an hour to ourselves and we found this little deli that had pizza in the back and it was very long and oblong shape. And they would pick it up and cut how much pizza you wanted with some kind of food scissors. That was pretty cool to see. The fountain was beautiful. We ate our pizza at a little bench, a little bit away from there. And I did throw in a coin because they say you get to come back if you do that. Well, we continued the city tour. Here's the building that held the tomb of the unknown soldier. It had 2 live guards there and it had flames that were lit all the time. Then we came across the ruins before you get to the Colosseum. This was a very large area with a lot of ruins to cover. Our tour guide gave us the history of everything, but I can't recite it all back to you because it was so much information. But it was beautiful to see, and just again, very thankful I had this opportunity to go see Rome. And next up was the Colosseum. Even though we saw the outside of the Colosseum the day before, today we actually got to go inside the Colosseum. And here it is right when we walked into the upper level, so we're about to see all the glory of the Colosseum. Well, as you can see, it's beautiful, it's amazing, it's large, and it's just so hard to imagine that so long ago they were able to build this with it being so huge. It's just still amazing. Like in our time, a building this big, it's a big undertaking. It's a huge attraction. So you can just imagine hundreds and hundreds of years ago, they were able to do this. Now, some of the events and games they held here were barbaric and brutal, and a lot of death was involved. And our tour guide did tell us it was actually almost hypocritical how they would have these games and then they would go off to church and thank God for allowing them to have such wonderful games. So I guess it's just a different part of history. After the tour was over, of course, on our way back, we got gelato. So good. And then they had these outdoor little fountains Ray was very fascinated by. Every time he passed one, he had to feel the water. Our second night of dinner consisted of pasta and lasagna at another small little restaurant. It was delicious. Now, their pasta there, they don't actually cook their noodles as long as we do. They're a little bit firm. Now for day 3, we're off to Venice. Here are some new friends we met, Mark and Mark on the trip. Great guys, had a good time with them. And then here we are going to the train station. We actually got to take a train to go to Venice. There's a small bridge that connects the island to the mainland. And this was actually my very first time taking one of these trains and really enjoyed it. It's a good experience. Now with this tour, we did have a tour guide, thankfully, that was able to navigate us through getting through the train station and finding our seats and everything, which if we were on our own, it might have been a little bit intimidating to do that. Here we are on the train. It's very nice, very new, and a very smooth ride. And then here is our local tour guide, Anto. Now, I can't remember exactly how long the train ride was, but it was either 3 or 4 hours. Now, one thing I liked was we were able to get a window seat the whole route of the train. But what I didn't like was it made so many stops. It probably made about 6 or 7 stops, and there were 4 seats to each table. So almost every time we stopped, somebody new was coming to sit with us, and I'm not exactly a huge people person for people I don't know like that. So that was a little bit awkward, but hey, part of it. We don't own the train. We were just a guest there. Now, there weren't a ton of sights to see. We went through a couple big areas, and there were a lot of grassy hills and things like that. But I think we ended up taking a nap on the train because we were exhausted. And they did come by 2 or 3 times selling snacks and drinks. And this took a lot of getting used to. Every time one of these trains on the other track would whiz by you, it was like a tornado just hit, and it's very loud, and you had to get used to that. Now, they did come by offering where you could buy snacks and drinks, and we got a water that's actually in a carton. I had never seen that before. That was kind of different. But here's just some of the sights we passed. It was a peaceful train ride. It was very smooth. It was not bumpy or too fast or too slow, just very pleasant. And this was the best part when you start getting close to Venice and you go over the bridge. I think it was called the Freedom Bridge that connects Venice to the mainland. And then you start to see it and you start getting excited that I'm about to be in Venice, Italy. Now, this was pretty exciting. Right when you exit the train station, this was your view. You get the Grand Canal. This is their main waterway in Venice, and it was just loaded with different boats and gondolas and just a little bit of everything. I can't remember exactly, but I think they told us the little bridges that go over all the canals, there's at least 144 of them, and there's maybe 4 really large ones. But the next thing we did was our tour guide started taking us down the small streets. We had the option to stay with her or go out on our own, and she said the walk was about an hour to the end to get to the square. And this was such a cool walk. There were so many little souvenir shops and gift shops and so many restaurants. I think I could have spent several days in Venice because it was just such a cute and charming city. So many of the shops had these cute little masks, and we did buy a couple. Oh, if you're a foodie like me, you're definitely not going to be hungry in Venice. There's so many pastries, cannolis, pizzas. You're going to find something you like there. We even saw a McDonald's there, but we didn't stop. And if there's a McDonald's, there's usually a Burger King. One of my favorite things to do is stop at the different souvenir shops. I love to pick up little trinkets and toys and things. But the unfortunate thing, when you're in a group and they're moving at a fast pace, you don't get to stop at all the stores you want to because you need to see all the sights. And then when you reach your final destination, you can go back and try to find those little shops you wanted to shop at. And then up here, we're about to approach one of the largest, if not the largest bridge in Venice, and it does overlook the Grand Canal, so you get to see all that busy traffic going by. And then one last alleyway to go through, and we reached the destination of St. Mark's Square. This place was absolutely beautiful and ornate and so worth the walk to see. Now, at the end of St. Mark's Square was the water where you could take the gondola rides there. We decided not to take them at this point because we saw a couple spots back in the charming part of the city, so we decided to start ours there instead. Now, the rides are a little expensive. They're 80 euros, which is probably roughly about $90 American money, but you cannot go to Venice and not do a gondola ride. Oh my God, it was so amazing. So here we are at the little port where we decided to take ours from, and our gondolier was named Andrea. Now, we asked him did he sing during the ride, but he said he did not. So here we are taking our gondola ride through the canals of Venice, something I never thought I would actually do in this lifetime, but it was so cool. Now, I can't swim, so I wasn't really nervous about taking the ride until we got on the Grand Canal and the other boats would pass by and kind of rock ours with their waves and things. Then I got a little uneasy and I was thinking, oh no, I have 30 minutes of this. I don't know if I can take that or not. But we just made a sharp turn. We had to get on that for like 1 minute before he turned down some of the smaller canals. And when we did this ride, we were going down the smaller canals. This is what was so amazing. It was so peaceful. You didn't really have any traffic. You didn't have other boats going by you. And you could just enjoy the beauty of the city. Like, all the buildings are old and have many flaws, but they're just pretty. Like, on the edge of the building, you can see here they have like clams or barnacles or something growing along the whole route. Something that I never would have known if I hadn't had this opportunity to ride in this gondola. Now, our gondolier driver told us that you have to go to school about 3 years to become a gondolier, and he had been one for about 8 years. His father was actually a gondolier, and this was his father's boat. Now, he told us the gondolas are actually pretty expensive. They're like 50 to 60,000 euros. But, you know, when you charge 80 euros for about a 25-minute gondola ride, I think you're going to pay for your gondola pretty soon. So I'll just let you watch a few seconds of our gondola ride so you can enjoy it and you get it free. You are welcome. Now, after our ride was over, we decided just to start walking back through the city some so we could hit some of those little souvenir shops and maybe get a bite to eat and then just enjoy being in Venice. Now, this tour was a little bit expensive. I think it was a little over $250 a person, American dollars. So it was expensive, but that did include the train ride. It included a ferry ride back to your starting point. So I guess it's not that bad. And when you're on vacation, you know you're going to pay a little bit. Now, these masks are from an upscale souvenir shop. We went in more like a gift shop, and we were drawn to go in there because I saw a Captain Hook and Peter Pan really nice puppet hanging from the window. And since I collect toys, I thought it would be perfect. And I thought it said 65 euros. And when we went in to ask how much it was, they were 800 euros. So I didn't get one. And sometimes it's just as much fun if you just go window shopping. And of course, we saw the world's cutest Dalmatian puppy, so we had to get a couple pictures of him. He was too cute. So we were able to navigate our way back to the ferry port. We jumped on a ferry so we could get back to our starting point in Venice, so we didn't have to walk the whole hour to get back there. But it was pretty crowded, and at these touristy spots, the people are a little aggressive and pushy, so you have to kind of fight your way on there. And this was the beautiful view of late afternoon in Venice. And as we reached our final destination, we did find this last church that we did stop in just to look around because all the churches there are so beautiful. And as we were making our way back to our starting point, we did kind of peek in and stop at some of the little restaurants and pastry shops and chocolate shops just to see what they look like. And we stopped at several more souvenir shops. It's just a slow, peaceful walk. And that's one of my favorite things, like I said, to do on vacation is just to peek into the little stores to see what all they offer. Because sometimes you can just find things you just never see anywhere else. And our tour guide also took us to this little restaurant where we were given flatbread with different toppings and soda or wine. As part of our tour, it was included in the price. So we snapped a couple more pictures before we had to get back on the train, grab some sandwiches, for that 3 or 4 hour train ride back to Rome. So our next day up, day 4, we're going to visit Pisa and Florence. So this day we had a private tour in a van where we were the only two, and a driver and a tour guide took us around the city. We stopped at several gas stations to take restroom breaks and to get snacks on the drive because it was about a 3-hour drive, and it was pretty fun. We thought there would be more people on the tour. We didn't realize we were going to be the only two. At this little gas station, this lady squeezes the red oranges to make juice. I thought that was so fascinating. I had to videotape her. But the convenience stores were actually pretty cool to go to. You wouldn't think that would be something fun to do, but it actually was. So our first stop here was Pisa, and you can see the weather. It's terrible. It was super windy, almost like tornado winds. It was rainy and it was cold. But right when you walked in the gate and you see that leaning tower, you kind of forget about the weather. So we started taking pictures, and our tour did include the entrance to a couple of these buildings. Now, this day-long tour in the van was about $250 a person, which actually isn't bad to have a driver and a tour guide and be in a van that takes you around to different cities to see the sights. So it was a lot of fun. It was very personal, one-on-one with the tour guide. His name was Josh. He was pretty nice. And when we got here to Pisa, like I said, we did get to go into these different churches and buildings, but we didn't actually get to go in the Pisa Tower itself. We did see other people like taking that tour that got to roam around in this tower, but we did not get to do that. But it was just so impressive to be here. I've seen all of this on YouTube videos, just like I had Rome earlier, but until you see it personally, you really can't appreciate it. Now, we tried our best to go outside and fight the elements of weather, but you see, this tower is fantastic. I knew it was a leaning tower, of course, but I didn't realize how much it really is leaning. It looks like it's just going to fall over any minute. And to see that in person was really impressive. Now, of course, we went outside and we tried to take the typical touristy pictures, but that wind and rain was severe. So we caught a small break in the weather and we ran out there and tried to get some good pictures, but it was a fight to try to get the good ones. And luckily we got a few. I wish we could have spent more time getting those perfect pictures of helping to hold up the Tower of Pisa, but we did our part and tried to hold it up a little bit to help it out. Now, we finally arrived in Florence, and our first stop was to get lunch. So he took us to this super, super busy marketplace. It was a food market that just had food vendors galore, different types of foods from different places in the world, but mainly Italian. Of course, I got pizza again because their pizza is so good there. It's very thin and just very delicious. Good thing I remembered to videotape my pizza. I almost ate it all. And then Ray got some Chinese noodles and beef. And then we got some potatoes too that were delicious. It just had so many choices and so many good things to choose from there. And then Ray got some macaroons there, and he said they were the best he ever had. Now, right outside of the food market, they had so many street vendors, a lot of leather goods. It all smelled good. I love the smell of leather, but their leather goods were actually a little pricey there. So after we got to shop a little bit, we did go meet up with a local tour guide who was included with our price, and he took us to the museum so we could see the statue of David. Now, for me, I had no idea the statue of David was as large as it was. It was pretty impressive. I enjoyed every minute of it. I didn't know you got to walk around the whole statue and see every angle. But the only thing is we didn't get to see a lot of the rest of the museum because the tour, I think, was like maybe an hour. So everything was a little rushed. We got to see the statue and he told us about a few paintings, and then we didn't even get to see the rest of the museum. We had to leave so we could go see the sights of the city, which was a good thing because the city was beautiful and he did tell us a lot of the history. He showed us these gorgeous doors that were hand carved, the beautiful churches there. The buildings are so ornate and elaborate and just definitely worth seeing.
It is beautiful. Now look at the name of the street that we are taking now. Is about 700 years old. The other building to the right with the arches was built instead as a stage for the Florentine politicians. From there they always used to.
You really can't tell it by the video, but it was so cold and windy. This is actually the place where the original statue of David was located. It used to stay outside. It was outside for like 400 years before they put it in a museum so it wouldn't deteriorate. And then here's a fountain next to it. So many beautiful things to see in Florence. Here's another one of those gates where they like to put locks on everything, which I think that's pretty cool. It just shows how many visitors come and visit. Now this is a bridge that was actually made. It's full of shops. It looks like a normal street, but it's a bridge. And it's, I think, the only bridge in Florence that was not destroyed in the war. They said it had too much of a historical significance. And this is the bridge on the other side here. And then we got to finish the tour where they took us on top of a hill and we got this beautiful overlook of the city. I didn't realize the city was as large as it was, and it was just breathtakingly beautiful. And then right here, I'll zoom in so you can see that bridge I was telling you about earlier. It's the one with all the stores and the businesses on it, the one that was not destroyed during the war. And here is our local tour guide, Giovanni, and then our overall tour guide in Florence, Josh. We really had a great time on this trip. All 4 cities were amazing and beautiful, and it was definitely a trip of a lifetime. So, arrivederci, Italy. We had a great time. If you want to see the souvenirs I bought, I've included them next. But I bought all kinds of little fun stuff from those shops. These little ceramic type figures of the buildings were super cheap. They were a great deal. They were just a couple euros each. And they made great little presents for all my friends when I got home. And I didn't get the porcelain or the expensive mask, but I got these little plastic versions of the higher price mask for just I want to say $2.50, but it's actually 2.50 euros. And then this little piano mask was $1.99 in euros. So super affordable, great little souvenirs. Got all kinds of little trinkets. Got a magnet for the refrigerator from Venice and a mini plate to put on our travel tree. Got some little keychains of the Vatican Guard and a Roman that I'll probably use those as ornaments on our Christmas tree as well. Then one of these little Pinocchio figures that says Italy on it. And I got myself this little snow globe gondola. It was only like maybe $6, €6, wasn't much. Then we did get 4 different Christmas balls to put on our travel tree to remember each city we visited. We got one from Rome, Venice, Pisa, and Florence. And then I bought a sack full of the little Venice magnets, like the carnival magnets from the street vendors in Venice, because I thought they would make great little gifts to give some of my friends as well. And then Ray bought me this cute little solar powered gondola. I really wanted one of those, so I was glad to get that. And we bought some of our women friends these Venice spoon rests. These are pretty cool. They'll enjoy those in their kitchens. And then this last little piece right here, I just got a little bit of everything. Postcards and trinkets. I love buying this little kind of stuff at the stores. I got the little Superman fan at one of the convenience stores we stopped at. So some of this is for me and some of this is for other people. But again, just a great time running in and out of those souvenir shops picking up trinkets. So I hope you all get to go to Italy one day. It was fabulous. And again, I'm just so thankful I had the opportunity to go there myself.